What's up, Previews World? It's Wednesday. It's new comic book day. Did I surprise you?
I was spacing out, and then I was like, "Oh damn!"
It was written all over your face. This is one of the best things about Ashton is you can already guess what she's thinking just by looking at her.
Oh no!
Anyway, welcome to Previews World Weekly, guys. I'm one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
I'm your other host, Ashton Greenwood, aka the Duchess of Free Comic Book Day, here with your weekly reminder. August 14th at your local comic shop will be Free Comic Book Day. There's 50 awesome titles for you to pick from. All of the regulars will be there: Marvel, Image, IDW, all that good stuff. And you can head over to our website if you want to see the full list. There's a lot of really exciting titles. There's 2 Star Wars titles this year, which I'm very excited about.
Okay, just say it again one more time because you know they're going to ask again.
Saturday, August 14th.
That's right, guys. You did not miss it last week. Free Comic Book Day did not happen. It has been moved to August. That might not be a permanent date. That might not be something we do every year, but that's where we currently are in the world of post-COVID, or I can't even comfortably call it post-COVID, just COVID. Like that's the reality we're in.
Just COVID.
Sorry. Yeah. First of all, look, we just started, so you might not know if you like us or not yet. But in case you're already just wowed by our scintillating conversation, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Previews World Weekly, or Previews World in general. That is on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and also be sure to subscribe to Free Comic Book Day. I was told recently by someone that they unfollowed one of our pages, well, Previews World, and because I was reposting too many things to both. So I'm like, I was like, okay, fair enough. So I backed off of reposting everything, and I tried to make everything exclusive to one feed again. Yeah. So you will get different content officially if you subscribe to both of us. So there you go. Although you heard it here first. Although you will be seeing this show twice on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. because it goes live on our Facebook and our both Facebook pages. Anyway, what's going on in the world of geekdom, Ashton? What are you super psyched about? What's going on in your fandom?
Yeah, so there's a game called Stardew Valley. It's pretty popular. It's a farming sim. It's in the vein of, like, if you remember Harvest Moon, it's, that was the inspiration for this game. And it really took off in the last couple of years. It was developed by one guy. He did it all by himself. And so recently there's been another kind of simulation game coming out called Super Zoo Story. And this is allegedly inspired by Stardew Valley, but it's kind of enthralled in controversy at the moment because Super Zoo Story is a ripoff. Like, it literally looks like a ripoff. Like, all of the art, assets, the worlds, the characters, like, it all looks completely the same to Stardew Valley, to the point where it looks like they've literally stolen art. So everyone's really upset, and the developers have come out and apologized and said, that they had tunnel vision when they were developing it, and it's hard to separate yourself from this idea that you have, which, if I'm being honest, kind of sounds like a cop-out to me, because it's so similar that, like this article said, it feels intentional. Like, there's no way to make something that similar on accident. So it's actually, and it's also sparked an interesting discussion about where the line is between being inspired by something and then just ripping it off, and kind of how inspired can you be before it's just the same thing.
Would you say this is a misappropriation of someone else's artwork, Ashton? Potentially. You see what I did there, didn't you?
I did, and I don't think it is fair to draw parallels to a future conversation we will have.
Right.
Because this is an issue of making money off of somebody else's everything.
Yeah.
And you're claiming it as your own when it is very obviously not.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. Something I've begun. It used to frustrate me, but now I find it fascinating. Is just that the dome of geekdom is very vast, right? But it seems like no matter what, there's always these pocket controversies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In every corner of geekdom simultaneously at any given time. And, it's there's one in comics, there's one in gaming, there's one in tabletop at the same time. There's always these pocket things. And then if you go into the real world and tell people about this, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? So I don't know. It's just, I used to be annoyed by all these things, but now I'm kind of like just kind of fascinated by just
Yeah.
I don't know, the sustainability of drama.
Right.
Like no matter what it is, like you just can't quite escape it. That's interesting. So like, yeah, I'm curious. Like, has there been any other outcome outside of we didn't steal anything, we just didn't know, and that's it, just shoulder shrug?
I don't know. Like, I mean, there's been some back and forth. Like, the Stardew Valley developer came out and was like, I'm not okay with this. This does feel like a cop out. Like, I put all of my time and effort into making these assets that you technically stole. And the Super Zoo Store guys were like, yeah, I'm sorry. But right now, that's kind of the extent of it.
Mhm.
I don't know. That seems problematic. Like, these kinds of things get pursued in the music industry. It would be kind of upsetting and unfair if it didn't get pursued in this kind of venue as well.
Yeah, I'm really curious what the comparisons are, like what the
Yeah.
different what the similarities are. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it looks like it's a 16-bit. I want to say 16-bit video game,
Yeah.
and those programs don't leave a lot of room for building something from scratch. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying I'm giving the zoo story people a benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, I'm just interested where that line is, especially when it comes to programming. That's the word I was looking for, programming. Johnny's telling us to move on, so I will move on. Fine, Johnny. Real quick, I wanted to give a shout out to something I saw actually late yesterday, that I was like, oh, cool. All right, good on you. Regina King, who's been an actress for a long, long time in Hollywood, probably one of the more prominent Black actresses in Hollywood, and also just consistently getting work. Like which is always something I'm always impressed by. Is like she will just pop up in a movie, and you're like, oh, it's Regina King. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, and she's always good in everything. But like last year, I want to say she directed this movie called One Night in Miami. She got an Oscar nod for it. It was her directorial debut, and now she's about to double down, and maybe she's stepping away from acting to officially pursue directing. But what does this have to do with anything? Well, for one, Regina King was in the Watchmen TV show. But two, most importantly, she's directing a Bitterroot movie. Now, Bitterroot is from Image Comics. It is currently coming out from Image Comics. They announced a movie deal with Black Panther director Ryan Coogler, and that like his production company would be producing it, but he would not be directing it because he's on lockdown from Disney. Disney's already got his career mapped out for the next 10 years.
Right, literally.
Right. But I thought it was really neat that that she's going to direct this. And typically I get flack for this a lot. Like, and I like people are always, oh, you're going to say this because whatever. But I look, I like action movies. I like special effects movies. This is the realm that I operate in, right?
Yeah.
And so I always kind of have hesitation when a director who's never done an effects film comes in to do an effects movie. But in this particular case, I feel like Regina King has been like making movies so damn long that it probably won't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like she's dealt with a lot of directors and a lot of producers, and she's been on set for every range, like everything from Jerry Maguire to Watchmen. She's been involved in, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I feel like she might be actually primed to do this and do a great job. This was from the Hollywood Reporter. And so like, I'll just read this real quick. In her first move since winning acclaim for her Oscar-nominated directorial debut, One Night in Miami, Regina King has set her sights on a monster-filled 1920s set race-themed comic book adaptation. I take a little bit issue with they keep saying race-themed, and I like the book has Black characters in it. Like, I don't.
You wouldn't say it's about race.
I mean, like race does factor into it because it does take place in the 1920s, but I wouldn't say that's. I wouldn't say that that's what the entire comic about. The comic's about monsters and family primarily. Bitterroot is an adaptation of the Image Comics title created by David F. Walker, Sanford Greene, and Chuck Brown for Legendary Entertainment, the company behind the recent box office hit Godzilla vs. Kong. King will also produce the project along with Raina King via their Royal Ties banner. So there's no release date for that yet. But I've met David Walker at conventions. I've interviewed Sanford Greene before. I think I've met Chuck Brown. I'm not sure. And it's good to see indie guys make good, and indie guys make good on their own terms, and to have them get a breakthrough and then have it being supported by Ryan Coogler and Regina King, I think is actually really cool. So I just want to point that out, and also, of course, point out that you can read Bitterroot by going to your local comic shop and picking up volumes 1 and 2. because the book is up to, like, I want to say about 16 issues now. So definitely check that out. All right, moving on. 10 minutes in. What are we going to do? We're going to talk about comics. How about that? We're going to give you our picks this week. Ashton's going to go. I'm going to go. And then we're going to tell you we're going to talk a little bit about some other books that are out this week that I found interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it. What's in comic shops? Okay. 1, 2, 3, not it.
Yeah. That wasn't fair.
Sorry, Ashton. You got to go first.
Oh, darn. It's like I do this every week. Okay, so my pick this week is A Kid's Guide to Fandom. It is the cutest thing, first of all. Like, look at this cover. It's adorable. But I love this as an idea and a concept, and it jumped out at me right away. So basically, it's a guide to help kids and young fans navigate fandom and kind of the communities within there. So things like fan fiction community, fan art community, cosplaying, podcasting, all of those kinds of cool things. And it kind of goes through, like, you know, some history and trivia, and it gives you some tips on how you can get involved and be parts of those communities. And I think this is a really good idea, just as like a thing that exists. This is a great tool to foster more inclusive fandom. You know, something we've talked about on the show, you know, repeatedly is toxic fandom and gatekeeping. And I think one of the ways you can combat this is from a very early age, making people aware that it is an inclusive space and that there is room for everybody, and we can all be here and create something and have fun together. So I think this is a good, like, grassroots approach. Plus the art is cute.
Yeah, that's actually kind of neat that they did that. A Kid's Guide to Fandom. You know, like, one of the things that I always struggle with, I actually had my aunt actually contact me this past week and ask, like, are there any kid-friendly, like, conventions that, like, my daughter just got into? My daughter just got into manga. What are the kid-friendly conventions that I can take her to? She's like 9 years old. You know what I mean? And I have really kind of struggled for a second. Like, you know, like there's definitely conventions that have a broad range of things available that goes from kids to adults, but I think kind of maybe the problem is that, like, it goes from kids to adults, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's no real cap. So I couldn't really tell her in good confidence, like, oh, go to Baltimore, go to AwesomeCon, because I'm like, you know, you don't quite know what you'll see at some of these conventions. So the fact that they've produced a book like this, I think, is actually pretty cool. Maybe I actually might buy it for her and just give it to her, like, you know, just be like, choose wisely, like, and hopefully that can steer her in the right direction. So thanks for pointing that out, because I didn't even notice that before. My pick this week. So last night I realized, you know what? I picked the first issue of this book and I have not read it yet. So I'm going to read it now to see if I like it, so I can pick the second issue, because I figured I would. Okay. Which is Spider-Man, Spider Shadow. It turns out it's good.
Right.
issue one was solid. So Marvel's doing this cool thing right now where, you know, they used to do this series called What If, and What If was a series of one-shot stories about something, major events in the Marvel universe, but what if they went in an opposite direction? Disney's about to do a TV show around this concept, and so Marvel is bringing back the concept of what if, and they typically bring it back every 2 or 3 years anyway, to just kind of play around with, like, major arcs in their continuity, right? And so this particular one is, what if Peter Parker became Venom? Instead of it going to Eddie Brock, you know, instead of Peter realizing, like, oh, this is a symbiote, I need to get this thing off me, he ends up keeping it. And what are the and so the most interesting part of this so far, and I don't want to give too much away because issue 1 just came out a month ago, less than a month ago, is the circumstances that lead up to him deciding to keep it.
Interesting.
So, you know, in the original comic, like, you know, he kind of has a moment that kind of forces him to kind of be like, whoa, wait, this costume is not okay. I need to get this off of me. And so he goes to Reed Richards for an assist, and, like, you know, there's a whole bunch of other steps in between. But this in particular story, like, they say, well, what if he just, sorry, I just got distracted by one of Johnny's comments. What if he just decided to not do any of those things? Or what if he didn't, he opted to not listen to good advice? You know what I mean? What if his ego got in the way? And it's pulling from things that happened circa the 1980s, around the time that this book came out. It's pulling from those things to kind of inform why he would keep the symbiote. You know what I mean? So it's cool. It's Pascal Ferry. I'm starting to discover, as the artist, I'm starting to discover that Chip Zdarsky is, I'd say he's probably one of the two of the best writers working in Marvel right now. And I'd say him and Donny Cates are back to back in terms of like just knocking it out and doing really quality, really fun stuff. It's not too gritty. It's got a lot of tons of imagination. You can tell they like playing in the Marvel sandbox. So yeah, if you're into that, check out Spider-Man, Spider Shadow. And it's got the little itty bitty what if in the corner. But it is a what if book, so definitely give that a look. And as you can see, it looks like next stop is Mary Jane and how she's going to deal with this. It looks like she's fully prepared to take him down if need be, but we'll see. So it should be interesting. I'm kind of into that. So this week, of course, at your local comic shop, there are new comics all the time, right? Every single week, but also toys drop every single week at your local comic shop as well. So here's Natasha, aka Cannon Doll X, and she's going to show you what toys are available at your local comic shop. And then when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these little oddities that are hitting your store this week. Let's go.
Natasha here, and I'm going to give you a look at some of the new toys and collectibles in stores today. Here's this week's previous toy chest. That's not all. Before heading to your local comic shop, be sure to check out PREVIEWSworld.com/new releases. There you'll find a complete rundown of everything a toy collector could possibly want.
And that video that you just saw with Natasha is not exclusive just to this show. You can catch it every Tuesday. We update it every single week, and she gives you a rundown of everything new that's available. The highlighted featured items that are new from your local comic shop, because there's always tons more. Of course, we distribute a lot of stuff through previews. So definitely check that out on Tuesdays on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We always post it every Tuesday. And if you're looking for more, go to PREVIEWSworld.com/new releases. Look, Johnny knew it was coming, so you threw it up at the bottom. I love it. All right. So two things caught my attention this week. I didn't feel comfortable picking them just because I didn't know anything about them, but they still kind of caught my attention. Number one being, look, R.L. Stine, right? The guy who made Goosebumps, right?
Yeah.
He's doing a Garbage Pail Kids book.
Yeah, I keep seeing R.L. Stine show up in the new releases page every couple weeks. Oh, this is one of the books with I had these kind of books growing up. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. No. Actually, yeah. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember what series of books had it, but had that little silver spine on there. This is definitely not a kid's book, mind you. maybe young adult. But look, so back in the 80s, right? Way back in the 1980s, for all you elderly people out there like myself. There's this thing called Garbage Pail Kids, right? And there were little trading cards and little stickers and whatever else they could, little golden books. Thank you, Johnny. That's what he was referring to. But there were little trading cards and stickers and all sorts of merchandising things of these. It was the 80s, so it was like babies who were doing really gross stuff. And it was very popular. You get a kid who has green boogers and is eating them, or it was just gross. That was the entire concept. That's all it was. And God bless the 80s, because you know what, I kind of miss that kind of just random nonsense. But it's really interesting to me that R.L. Stine is doing a Garbage Pail Kids book, because first of all, Garbage Pail Kids hasn't really been a thing in a long time. Every now and then there'll be a small resurgence, but the fact that R.L. Stine is attaching his name to this and jumping both feet in, I thought was pretty interesting. The other one that I can't even begin to fathom, well, I mean, I could take a guess what it's about.
Oh
boy. It's a book from Sublime called Dick Fight Island.
Okay, wonderful.
And so you can tell by the graphic on the screen. Hopefully we don't get in trouble for this, but I had to point it out. I think it might be what is the, oh God, I just forgot. Oh, Yowie. I think it's like a yaoi title.
Mhm.
I believe it is. And I think that's what Sublime produces a lot of.
Mhm.
But I just, I'm scrolling through the page every week. Like, we go through the pages, the new release page, and we're making our picks. And I saw this. And I was like, I have to at least mention this on the show. So I feel like if I say anything more about it, I'm going to get in trouble. So I'm just not going to.
Yeah, just
But
let
look,
it go.
it's on PREVIEWSworld.com/new releases. So just, you know what? Take a look at it and figure it out for yourself. See what happens. And it's available apparently at your local comic shop today. So definitely check that out. Anyway, all right. Ashton, you want to do some news stuff? You want to talk about some things happening in the news?
Heck yeah.
All right, let's do it. What do you got?
Okay. So although this summer's big show, San Diego Comic-Con will be taking place in July, that has not prevented us from forging forward with our previews exclusives. So you can still find our San Diego previews exclusives at your local comic shop. We've been announcing them over the last about week or so, and we still got 2 more days of announcements coming. But it's everything from, toys, statues, to comic books, and all of the whole 9. There's some really interesting things from Cobra Kai and Gundam. And if you head over to PREVIEWSworld.com, you can see the full list of exclusives, and you should head to your local comic shop and make sure you let them know you want these things so they can pre-order for you.
Mm-hmm. Also, I gotta point out, like, I actually already pre-ordered the Johnny. I gave you the translucent Tron figures, right? I lost when I saw this. I was like, oh, this is cool. So yes, I'm going to get this specifically for my desk at work.
Yeah.
But I just thought these were so neat. The only other thing that would be cooler is if they glowed in the dark. But you know what? I'll take it. I just think these are neat. I'm such a sucker for Tron. And I can't even sit here and say that I absolutely love everything about Tron, but at the same time, I just think Tron looks cool, and it's got the Daft Punk soundtrack, and it's always looked cool. So I'm just like, I just gobble up anything Tron, regardless of whether or not I think the story's great or not.
That's fair.
But that's one of the San Diego Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, nope, do not call it San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. One of the San Diego 2021 previous exclusives. And that is available pre-order now, like Ashton said, at your local comic shop. All right, let's jump into a trailer real quick. So dropping this week from Image Comics is a book called Time Before Time. This one's kind of interesting, given recent events. So we're going to go ahead and run the trailer. When I come back, I'll explain what's so interesting about it besides the concept itself. Let's go. Sorry.
You're killing it.
I am sorry. I like the, look, how okay, you ever made an appointment for Verizon and then they tell you we'll be here between 12 a.m. and 8 p.m.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what that was. So I just real quick had to be like, hey, what do you want? Okay, gotta go. Bye. I just their windows are so wide. I'm just they always do that. It's always we'll be here in the next 16 hours. It's well,
thanks for nothing.
Thanks for nothing, guys. I guess so. Okay, we got some comments at the bottom here. What's going on? I'll talk about Time Before Time in a second. What you got, Johnny? Happy New Comic Book Day. Thank you, No Good Comics. I like that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Brian Spencer, my local con, LexCon, is pretty kid-friendly. They like to have Sunday be Kids Day. Actually, I will say a lot of conventions are doing that, where they make Sunday very specifically Kids Day. So that is a nice option. So yeah, thanks for that, Brian. I appreciate that. What else we got? Jose. Oh, hey, it's Mr. Mendez from our panel. Fixing art ain't cool. It's like watching black and white movies recolored. Uh-oh. We're going to get into that in a second, John. We're going to get into that in a second. Let's see here. But real quick, I want to point out with Time Before Time, of course, this is a new series from Image Comics. But the thing I found really interesting about it is that artist John Paul Leon passed away last week, right? Or at least we got the official announcement that he did last week. We were talking about it on the show last week with Cesar and Bader. And one of the things we always say when creators pass away is that, look, they're immortalized. Like, their work is going to live on well past them. And here's actually proof positive of this, which I thought was really interesting. It's like he passed away last week, and then the next week he's on the cover of an Image title. You know what I mean? So, I just found that kind of fascinating, and I just thought it was worth pointing out that John Paul Leon's work lives on, and I think that's pretty cool. So, all right. Okay, so we got a solid 34 minutes here. You think we can burn everything down in 34 minutes, Ashton?
Oh, definitely.
All right. Well, look, it's art fix time, so let's just make it happen. I'm gonna fork it over to Ashton, and she's gonna lead the way. We're gonna see where this takes us. Let's find out.
Okay, so in the last, week or so, there's been a discussion surrounding fixing art, and specifically in regards to J. Scott Campbell's Mary Jane image. It was quote unquote fixed by another user on the internet. So did we asked everyone their opinion on it? Yes. Are we gonna unpack that? Okay, great.
Oh yeah. We're gonna unpack it.
All right, fantastic. So we asked you guys your opinion on what you think about art fixes. If people take issue with art, should they be altering it on social media? So let's see what you guys had to say. Rob O'Brien says, considering the tradition in comic fandom to discuss how I do it better, I think the faux outrage over this is ridiculous. As for art fixes in general, they're a form of critique like any other, no big deal. Roger says, excuse me, there are no mistakes in art. When it is presented, it will of course be subjected to public scrutiny, and if the public rejects it, then it is their right. The only person who can correct art is the artist themselves. Scott says, fixing someone else's art is extremely disrespectful to the original artist. If you don't like the art, nobody's forcing you to view or listen to it. Daniel says, to fix something implies it's broken. It's very arrogant to think your version is better than someone else's just because the original doesn't fit your criteria. AKA Mr. Bolo says, inclusive, body-positive art is absolutely crucial to making comics welcoming for everyone. That being said, the answer to not feeling like an artist took these things to heart in their work isn't to, quote-unquote, fix it by fixing theirs, but to instead create art that showcases an aesthetic you believe in. Anthony says, I think it crosses the line. Criticisms of art are valid and should be encouraged. Defacing someone else's creation should not be.
All right, so who's going to go first, Ashton? Come on. This is your segment.
All right, so there's a lot of layers here that you have to unpack. And I think the first thing is kind of this phrase of like art fixing. And I do think that is problematic in and of itself. Yes, maybe you shouldn't be. I don't know that fixing art is the issue here. Actually, I think that it's a detour around the actual issue. And some of our viewers kind of, said this as well. Like, yeah, are you fixing art? Like, yeah, you are. Is it disrespectful? I don't know that I think that. I think people, if you look at all the ways the Mona Lisa has been disrespected over time, that doesn't seem to bother people. But in this particular instance, it is problematic. I think that's a little bit of a selective application of that. I will say here, though, like any time you create art and you put it out there for someone else to consume, you've immediately entered it into the court of public opinion, and not everyone's going to be on board. And that's really just too bad. Like, there are going to be people that don't like it, that take issue with it, and that are going to get very loud about it. And they are well within their right to do so. And if that rubs you the wrong way, unfortunately, sorry. We've talked about the way women are portrayed in comics in this show before. And I think in the past, I kind of danced around it. I'm not going to be that generous this time. I personally think this is a little bit ridiculous. I think it perpetuates unrealistic beauty standards. And I can't believe that in 2021, this is really the only way to portray someone that is an actress and a model. And I know this is something, Troy, you said when we talked about it the first time, that MJ is an actress and a model. She is. Mm-hmm. She can look differently and still be an actress and a model. She doesn't have to be this ridiculous waistline that's not realistic for where your ribs and your lungs and your organs would be. And it is alienating to a female audience. Like, I find that distasteful. And, beyond that, this is an issue, someone took issue with it, they fixed it, right? So then here comes J. Scott Campbell voicing his complaint and fixing the fixed art. So if you look at the fixed art, the third iteration of this, truthfully, you come out with an altogether far more tasteful image than you started with. So I'm not understanding, like, why did it take all of this to get here? Like, why wasn't this the starting place? Like, why do we need to have the tiny waist with her arms looking like it's pushing her boobs up? Like, I don't understand what that was supposed to be. I also lost my next train of thought, so that's awkward. But
I mean, I can jump in here and save you, or like, do you want to continue on? You want to try to get that thought back?
Yeah, it's going.
Okay, so Nothing Jon Snow pointed out something I was going to bring up, which is this wasn't made in 2021. It was made from 2009. Actually, it was earlier than that. It's actually from J. Scott Campbell. Well, it's actually from an early 2000s run of Amazing Spider-Man. J. Scott Campbell's never the interior artist. He was actually the cover artist for several of those books. Man, oh man. Okay, so I have a lot of feelings on this, and like I'm going to try really hard not to be verbose here, right? Like,
I did not try hard to not do that.
No, I think that's fine. I think that I think we're going to have. I think for the first time in the history of the show, you and I are going to be at odds about this, and which I want to point out, which is okay. Like, I think that's the other part of this is like, I think Ashton has very valid opinions in terms of beauty standards, right? But here's the thing. I feel like that's a lot to weigh on an image. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that there is, and I also think that, like, especially now, there's like so many different types of comics, like that there's something for everybody. You know what I mean? So if someone like, and I don't want to like, finger point at them, but if Xenoscope wants to do the cheesecake thing, then it's like, okay, fine. I mean, they have an audience for it, and that's, people clearly buy it, so that's how it works. Does it work for me? It does not work for me. I'll be very honest with you. That said, I've always been a fan of J. Scott Campbell, and I've been a fan of J. Scott Campbell since Gen 13, and I'll be very honest with you, like, some of the appeal of Gen 13 was the hot girls, like, so I mean, I was of course 17 at the time, so I was a prime demographic for it. But that was part of the appeal, and that's kind of what he does. And we talked on the show before. We talked on the show before about his Black Widow cover. I think it was early last year. Something similar cropped up with him about his Black Widow cover, and people were taking issue with that. Prior to that, people took issue with a Riri Williams cover that he did, and then he completely redrew it. Like, I feel, and like prior to that, he's been a frequent target for these types of criticisms, right? And I got to be real with you, Ashton. At this point, it feels like harassment. And I know that that's a strong word to throw around, right? But I also feel like people throw that word around a lot anyway, so I'm going to use it too here. Look, it's he has a style, he has an audience. That audience is locked in. And like I said, there's a wide range of material. Like, go to PREVIEWSworld.com/new releases. Like, there's a wide range of material that you can get for any number of things. I just showed you guys Dick Fight Island. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's a wide range of material here. And I just kind of feel like the way that people keep drilling him about this over and over and over and over again, it feels like harassment. And like, here's the thing. I don't agree with everything he likes. He draws. I don't like everything he draws. Like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, that's part of the artistic process. I don't always like everything he draws, and I don't collect everything he draws. So yeah, I just thought that was weird. Like and I thought the fixing thing was just a very odd thing. And like I see myself rambling, so I'm just gonna close it out with this, right? I've joked about this before in the show. Back in the early 2000s when I was in college, right? I was on the Rotten Tomatoes message board way too much, like way, way, way too much. And at one point, I got into this heated back and forth with someone about Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, the other thing that divides geekdom all the time, right? Star Wars. And so I decided that like I was going to write a multi-paragraph version of what I thought episode 1 should be. And I dedicated way too much time and way too many words to something I don't own. You understand what I mean? And I look back on that now, and it's kind of like, oh God, that's embarrassing, right? I was like, I was 19 or 20. I felt strongly about everything but what was important. You know what I mean? Sure. But like, and I look at that moment, and I look at what this guy did with the J. Scott Campbell thing, and I kind of equate them as the same thing, which is like, the audacity of me. You know what I mean? The audacity of me to think that I could fix something that a professional has made, whether or not I like it or not. You know what I mean? And for me to go in and just kind of be like, well, they should have done this instead. They should have done that instead. And they should have done this. It's foolish. Like, that's how I view myself then. And that's how I view this now. And I feel that J. Scott Campbell took it in stride. I feel like, ultimately I saw some people saying like, well, he keeps leaning into this and keeps bringing it back up, et cetera, et cetera. But that's because you guys keep bringing it back up. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm trying not to be too salty about this, but this continuously is a thing. And again, I just have to go back to like, there are just so many different types of comics, so much different types of artwork. I have had to say this too many times. Let artists be artists. Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to support it. And also, like, in the case of this Mary Jane cover, I'm like, it came out like 20 years ago, dude. Like 20 years ago. Like, let it go. Like, just Jesus Christ. Like, just let it go. So I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna drop it. But yeah, I just found that very frustrating to see. And look, everyone is entitled to their opinion. We're entitled to our opinion. You know what I mean? The fans are entitled to their opinion. J. Scott Campbell's entitled to their opinion. But that's the point. Art is subjective. That is the ultimate point here. And, I know Fast and Furious is trash, but I love it anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you like things that are just junk food. And J. Scott Campbell, sometimes he just makes great junk food. And am I still the 17-year-old who's like, ooh, girls? No, I'm not. So it doesn't work on the same way for me. But at the same time, just let him go. Leave him alone. I know Ash is giving me the squinty eyes, but that's my take. Where are you going to follow up with, Ashton?
I just, at the risk of sounding like a hater, I'm getting a little tired of this whole like men using women as a tool for their story. And it's easy to say, like, if you don't like it, don't look at it. And that is very true. That is a very valid argument. I'm not going to act like it isn't. But also, it's just when you let these things exist and you don't say anything about them and they continue to be perpetuated and he continues to do it, and regardless of how many times people bring it up, I personally think that's dangerous. And I think it's problematic. Yes, it's his art. Should you be fixing it? Maybe not. I mean, are you within your right, again, to make a point about it? Yes. But I think as a repeat offender in the same fashion, I think that's kind of dangerous. And I think I don't know, like, this is a little off topic, but I think it's kind of confusing that it's like, like Rob Liefeld's Captain America, that is ridiculous. And we're all like, this is ridiculous. Right. Like, why is that ridiculous? And something we can all acknowledge is not like like the way human anatomy works, but this isn't part of that same conversation. I don't understand why is there an anatomy conversation and this isn't part of it?
Well, I mean, there is, like, I mean, I think it's, to your point, the distinction about the concerns about anatomy are coming from different camps based on the topic, right? But I also see some cross pollination because I think there are people that will agree. Like, there are people who say the Rob Liefeld Captain America thing is ridiculous, and the J. Scott Campbell thing is ridiculous. I'm on the other side of this. I think it's apples and oranges. Like, I think that I don't know what Rob Liefeld was doing over there, and J. Scott Campbell is, he's like all his characters kind of follow this body type, and I'm like, okay, I guess. Like, I mean, it works for some people. I'm okay with that. I think there's another part of this that I think people do gloss over, which is, we talked about toxic fandom, right? And so, okay, Johnny wants to chime in too, so I'll definitely let Johnny jump in. But like, I feel like this falls in that category of entitled fandom. Like, I feel like we kind of get into these pockets where we think entitled fans and toxic fans only come from one camp, right? But there's another part of this where it's like, it's kind of a widespread issue. And I feel like that widespread issue has various layers to it. And it all comes from different corners. Like, I've seen people say that the Steven Universe crew is like toxic. Like, you know what I mean? Of course, I've seen people say the Star Wars fans are toxic. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's layers to this. And I just kind of wish, I know it's overly simplistic and maybe even juvenile, but I'm like, just like what you like, guys. Like, I don't think we need to be had our fingers wagged at us every time something draws something that doesn't agree with you in particular, Johnny, are you going to come on and is there going to be two guys yelling at the woman on screen?
No,
that'll be a good look.
That would not be a good look.
Yeah. Remember the last episode of Previews World Weekly that time? Yeah, that was a good one. No, I'm inclined to agree with Troy on this. Although I definitely do see Ashton's perspective. But I did want to go over some of the comments that we're getting. But there was this one posting that you sent me, Troy, that I thought was quite entertaining. Yeah. I fixed Sam Keith's terrible art. Has he never seen a person before? Human bodies just don't look like that. So just to see the Max done up as just like a regular guy.
And I think that's another thing too. You have to kind of take it into a context. Like, does J. Scott Campbell do more quote unquote realistic artwork than Sam Keith? Yes. But I mean, it's still all ridiculous. Like, it's all just stylized nonsense. Like, not to call it nonsense, but it's all stylized to a very specific tone or style. So
I mean, and it's like what you were saying earlier. He's gotten in trouble before, and I flashed this image up earlier. But it was like this portrayal of Tiger Lily from Peter Pan, and Native Americans or just were not happy about that.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone should have been too happy about that. Why is she white?
So,
I mean, is she white? Actually, I didn't think she was white, but okay, interesting.
No, it was just like about the just portrayal of them in captivity or something like that.
Right.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot going in there.
I mean, he's known for the pinup style. I mean, he did his whole fairy tale fantasies calendar series that was done this. But he's also been known to make fun of his own art because this was like part of his art from Marvel Comics 1000, and just seeing Mary Jane say, "Hey, you don't actually think I sit that way, do you?"
Right. Oh, but this was in Marvel Comics 1000. I totally forgot about that. I couldn't remember where I actually saw this originally, but yes, that's right. It is. Marvel actually printed this, which I actually kind of, good on you, Marvel, for that.
But yeah, I'm agreeing. I feel like Ashton's point to just realistic body portrayal. I mean, like, just from a purely anatomy standpoint, it doesn't seem like there's any real reason for her to be like putting her hands together in like this. No,
absolutely.
I'm like, but I do agree that like the art or J. Scott Campbell's fix of the quote unquote fix tends to lean towards a much more natural representation of Mary Jane. What would seems to be like more comfortable, but that is neither here nor there. But I do want to say that we have been getting a lot of comments on this when you guys have been going back and forth. So let's see. We're gonna just we are way backed up. Let's see.
Oh boy.
Choose carefully, Johnny.
I'm gonna try here. Michela Marquez says, "You say ridiculous, but it's art, it's a style, and why should it not be available for those of us who enjoy it?" That's fair.
I don't know if that was for me or her. I don't know who that was.
Probably me.
Taurus, if people want to consume it, they can. Beauty standards are self-applicable. Art is expression and subjective.
Disagree with the beauty standards part. Big disagree, actually.
Let's see. It's comic books. Actual anatomy has never been evolved. Are you serious?
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but
I know. But,
I see your point.
Lee Johnson. Sorry, it's just the way he drew back then. Why change it to appease?
Oh my God.
I'm not. No. Okay. No.
All right.
No.
God, like if you can't do it,
so many.
Yeah, if you can't do without name calling, then like
this is why we can't have nice things. So
yeah.
We're upset about unrealistic portrayals of women in comics because the men are all drawn like real men look, or can we just accept that comics are unrealistic in the representation of the human body in general?
I think that's fair, but I don't know. I'm gonna pass on this because I don't know. I don't want to go over the line. not to answer or not to really answer or disagree with that statement, but I just want to point out that just last week on our show, I think it was just last week, people were flipping out about the anatomy of Mike Mignola's He-Man. Yeah,
that new Masters Universe book. And look, I'll just say I'm very consistent. Like I felt the same way about that I feel about this. And He-Man, people love to dredge up the He-Man toys and say, like, is this a realistic body standard? And no, it's not. It's totally ridiculous. But I just wanted to point that out that just last week we did the same thing for He-Man, and this week we're doing it for Mary Jane. So
this one is just, I want to comment on this one. Luis is saying, but in life, women want to be sexy like men. That is not true, sir. I do not want to be sexy. Have you seen me? I look like a lowercase letter B from the side.
Oh, Johnny.
Actually, so this is one thing I thought that was kind of interesting, kind of fascinating. And this was something that I mentioned on in a thread that I was in when people were talking about this. Got Zetascope, Frank Cho, like all the frequent targets of these type of things, J. Scott Campbell, they have a very solid female fan base. You know what I mean? And I think that and I can't really speak for that, but I can tell you that having dated women who actually immediately saw Frank Cho art and was like, whoa, what is this? I want this. It's fantasy. You know what I mean? Like it's on one side you could say unrealistic beauty standard, but on the other side it's like, some women are like, yeah, I dig that. I like that. I'm into it. Maybe they want to be like that. Maybe they already look like that. Maybe, I've heard people go in so many directions with this. So yeah.
Gabriel says, for every Cho or Campbell, there is a Terry Moore.
This is true.
It seems that it's all the new generation who want to complain about this. I don't know about that. I mean, there's plenty of old people who like to complain about things. I mean, Troy and I are old. We like to shake our fists at clouds. So,
yeah, the old fans complain about stuff too. So whatever.
There's just so many comments in here. Dangerous, get over yourself. They're comics, not real life. Yes, real women don't all have big boobs and hourglass shapes, but men aren't all right. Yeah, we've already been over this. We get it. It's just repeating the same stuff over again. Although I do want to touch on one thing. I think I like the fact that J. Scott Campbell is also continuing this in the wake of the public outcry or outrage, or whatever you want to call it, to issue up on his Twitter to draw this in your style. So he's getting people to go out there and create their own art in the wake of this. So recreating his cover to the Amazing Spider-Man number 607. You can just look at his Twitter, Instagram. You can see all the details on that. But they've been getting a lot of interesting submissions to that. I saw one person who pretty much recreated that cover like using like leather working.
Oh, leather working?
Leather working, yes.
Oh,
it's like so. Yeah, something creative came out of this. Not just
I mean, like
tearing down people's work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I want to give J. Scott Campbell some credit here. Like, this has been a consistent thing, and like he typically handles this with some grace and some class. Like I said, when people gave him crap about the Riri Williams cover, he just redrew it. You know what I mean? Like he was just like, okay, because like at the end of the day, I think I like what I like about his attitude is like, look, I'm an artist, I draw, I'll just draw it again. You know what I mean? Like there's something about that I kind of respect. So. All right, guys, keep the comments coming. It's funny. Like, we always joke it's like, we get into these points where like, we don't want to do the controversial stuff all the time because we don't want a lot of yelling on our feed because we want to make this a fun space for people to enjoy. Right. But then every now and then something rears its head that, like, we're kind of like, well, we should probably talk about this because everybody else is talking about it. And it was really funny to see this because Johnny just, the way that this video process works is Johnny just posted the video and scheduled it, and it just happened to have the J. Scott Campbell image as a thumbnail, right? Because that was going to be the topic for this show. And 200 responses. Like there was no show, just 200 responses immediately, like just people just going off just based off of the thumbnail. And so it's one of those things I've heard so many people say, like, look, like, social media interaction doesn't want positive news, they only want negative things. And I find that very unfortunate, and I don't love that, but unfortunately it's true. Like, because one week I could ask you guys, like, tell us about your favorite manga, and 12 people respond. But if I say, tell us something you hate, 300 comments easy.
Right.
So maybe that's something to think about, guys, just in general, as fans in general. And that goes for myself as well. Yeah. Because Ashton will tell you, we've had frequent conversations across the cubicle about things that we've seen in fandom that are just like, why would they do this to us?
Yeah.
But, speaking of things we've seen in fandom, and
before we go, Troy, this is just in. The newest piece of J. Scott Campbell art may kill your baby. Film at 11. Public outrage, outcry. I demand blood.
It just might. I'm just saying, guys. Johnny ruined my segue to the Bad Batch. Actually, you know what? Let's do Comic Shop. Actually, no. Let's do Bad Batch. Let's talk about that first, actually, before we do Comic Shop shout out. We got 8 minutes. Let's see what's going on. Ashton, did you watch the first episode?
I have not yet.
You haven't watched it? I watched it because I thought you were going to watch it.
I haven't. I want to. I'm so sorry. I'm actually upset that I haven't gotten to it yet. I just haven't been able to find the time, which I know sounds stupid, but it's like I honestly just haven't been able to carve out a couple minutes.
No, I completely and totally sympathize. Like, I literally watched it at 8 a.m. today because I was like, I got to talk about this today. So I don't want to spoil it for you. I typically don't care if we spoil things, but since I actually know you, I won't spoil it.
Thank you. I'm 2 episodes behind now, aren't I? Didn't the new one just come out yesterday?
So yeah, apparently the second episode dropped as well. Now, the one thing I'll tell you though is it's good. Like, I know some people be like, oh, it's Dave Filoni. Who cares? Like, of course it's good, but I kind of I've told you this before. Like, when it comes to Star Wars, there's always this moment of like hesitation with me now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? No matter what it is. And like I kind of like put off watching it for a week, and I was like, oh crap, this morning I was like, I gotta watch it. And then I watched it and I was like, this is actually kind of cool. And this is actually explaining and visualizing things that I've always wondered about. So, that'll be for next week then. We'll talk about Bad Batch. Yeah. Then it'll be 3 episodes and it'll be like a whole nother thing. So
that's fine. Well, I can watch the 2 episodes this weekend. I definitely have the time for it. It'll just be an issue of if I can get to the 3rd one or not.
Right. But yeah, there you go. So things have been busy at Previous World HQ, no doubt about that. So I'm not gonna, I won't give you too much crap about it. All right. Wait, Johnny, what is this? The meme? The meme, Johnny? What is this? Oh, that's right. I forgot I did give him this. Yeah, I just like, I think I think in general that's my approach to these things now. As like, at least I try to make it my approach. Do I always succeed at that? No, but I see a lot of anger and irritation at these things that again, they're fiction and they're supposed to be fun. And I think that's kind of the curse of what we do, which is like, we work in marketing, so therefore we're exposed to social media comments all the time, right? But I mean, like, just keep that in mind, guys. Next time you're like, I don't like this thing, it's like, okay. Like, some people do. Like, it's okay. Like, you can move on.
It's also okay for someone to have a different opinion from you. You don't need to yell in someone's face if they feel differently.
This is very true. And I think for me, the thing that I take issue with is when people go out of their way to ruin something. Like, I've seen those threads where it's like, hey guys, new episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier just dropped. Like, I want to talk about some of the story arcs and like, how it connects to other MCU stuff or whatever. And then, comment number 3 is like, this show sucks. And it's like, well, that's not what this That's not what this. That's not what the story's about, dude. Like, don't go out of your way to ruin things for other people. Like, I guess it's
Right.
all right. So no bad batch. So what is the comic shop shout out this week, Ashton?
Sorry about that. This week's comic shop shout out goes to Maximum Comics in Las Vegas from Jamie Watkins. So we'll show you some pictures of that comic shop at the end of the show. If you want us to shout out your comic shop on the show, find us on social media, tag your shop. If they don't have a handle, just leave their name and use the hashtag support your LCS. We will find your post and shout out your shop on the show and give them some love.
There you go. And I want to let you guys know that on PREVIEWSworld.com, a couple of interesting things have been dropping. We have a Mike Choi interview. Mike Choi has a book from AWA right now called Moths. It's available pre-order right now. It's arriving in July. We've been doing a lot of fun like art interviews where we spotlight an artist and let them kind of break down their process and let them talk. Because like I feel like a lot of times writers really talk about their book and not enough artists anymore, which is the complete opposite of how it was when I was growing up. So I just kind of wanted to get back to that. Mike Choi gives us some great insight about his book. It's with Moths, which is with J. Michael Straczynski as a part of the Resistance series of superhero books that AWA is currently putting out. Also, look for a Spawn timeline, visual timeline that we'll be posting this week. We are officially dubbing this the Year of Spawn because of the Spawn Universe event that is coming to comic shops in the next couple of weeks, or kicking off at comic shops next couple of weeks. It's going to stretch out until October and November. And so we give you kind of like a nice little history of the character, and that'll be on PREVIEWSworld.com as well. Also, as always, like, follow, subscribe, guys. If this didn't piss you off beyond belief, or if you just like I mean, look, this is why we do what we do, right? This is why we got Ashton over here, and this is why we have Troy over here, and then we have Johnny in the middle to like kind of like try to father us a little bit,
right?
But it's because we both are expressive, we both feel strongly about certain things. We're able to get along regardless of that. You know what I mean? But we want to dialogue, and we want to dialogue with you. And as long as it's respectful, it's all good. It's all great. We still love you guys. You guys are great. So yeah, if you believe that and you're on board with that, then like, follow, subscribe to Previews World, like, follow, subscribe to Free Comic Book Day, and just be part of the conversation with us. And that's it for Previews World Weekly, guys. I've been one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
I'm your other host, Ashton Greenwood.
And we will see you guys at the Spinner Rack. Catch you later.
Don't forget that you can catch Previews World Weekly streaming live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific at Previews World on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.